Good evening, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Political Forum. My name is Mike Jacobson. Political Forum is your chance to speak with local electeds and those who are civically active in the city of Chicago and beyond. And today we are focusing on the Cook County State's Attorney's race. And with us is Republican candidate Christopher Pfannkuche. Did I say it correctly?
You did. Thank you very much for that.
Very much. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, this is your chance. If you would like to get involved, there's a number at the bottom of the screen, 312-738-1060. That's 312-738-1060 if you have a question. You can also watch us not only on CanTV 21 here in Chicago, but online everywhere at cantv.org/hotline. Okay, so let's get going. This is one of the larger races that's happening in the city of Chicago and Cook County. But people may have remembered you in the 2016 election, but for those who didn't, why don't you tell people about yourself?
Well, my name is Christopher Pfannkuche. I'm running on the Republican ticket for Cook County State's Attorney, which is the chief criminal prosecutor for Cook County, the person whose job it is to prosecute people who violate the criminal statutes of our state, and the person who's basically empowered to keep the streets safe for all of you, our listening viewers, audience. As Mike did allude to, I ran only once before. I ran for state's attorney. I ran back in 2016. And while I did not win, I made a darn good showing. I had no backing, no team, but I took my message right to the people, and I garnered roughly 600,000 votes, which is remarkable for Republican in this town.
All right, so really quick, if people would like to learn more about your campaign, they can go to your website, votechristopher.com, votechristopher.com. You can learn about the candidate. You can learn about his platform. If you want to get involved, volunteer, there's an opportunity to do that as well. There's a lot of things to do there, so that is at votechristopher.com. Okay, so let's get started here. First and foremost, where we stand right now in the office. Are you pleased? Are there anything that, let me say this, is there things that are doing well, and what's not going so well?
I'm not pleased, and nobody should be pleased with the way things are going with the state's attorney's office. I was a prosecutor with this office for 31 years. I'm very, very proud of that. I fought for justice for people in our community, in the trenches, in the courtrooms every day for 31 years, and I got justice for people. Experience does matter. Right now we have a state's attorney that has never tried a felony case in her life. She has no experience. She served just a very short time in the office. She never worked in the felony courtrooms. She has no idea of the issues or the problems that come up every day that we need to deal with. Experience matters. I think my experience brings a lot to the table. I'm a career criminal prosecutor. Mm-hmm. I spent all my life as a criminal prosecutor working for 3 different government agencies. I worked for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office for 31 years as a trial supervisor, the office I'm now seeking to lead. I spent time working for the Office of the Special Independent Prosecutor, the office we're hearing about in the Jussie Smollett case. I received one of those appointments. I'm very honored to have received one of those appointments. I was an Assistant Special Independent Prosecutor. And years ago, I worked for the Office of the Macon County State's Attorney's Office, where I became eventually head of their traffic division. I have handled thousands of cases. My litigation experience is extensive. My background is very extensive in this area. I've served on the boards of governors and executive boards of major attorney bar associations in this county. I'm very, very proud of that. Dealing with sizable budgets, leading organizations of literally hundreds of attorneys, putting on training programs. I was chairman of one of the criminal law committees of one of the bar associations for years, putting on training programs, training attorneys all over this county. I've served as a university professor. I've taught criminal law. I've taught business law. I understand and teach the financial implications of crime on our criminal justice system. And it's one of the big reasons why our taxes are so high, because so much money goes to our criminal justice system. I'm a published legal author, something else I'm very proud of. I wrote the book on search warrants that a lot of police departments use now in the state of Illinois. I also believe in being fair and giving first and second offenders a second chance, and I proudly wrote the expungement guide, the official expungement guide for Cook County. Through the years, I've served in other positions. I currently serve on the board as the legal advisor for the Chicago Metropolitan Crime Commission. Again, I deal with the criminal justice system from every different angle and aspect. I think that is so important, brings so much insight into a race where you need insight like this. Years ago, I tried a case that was the first of its kind in the nation. My case garnered the attention of the American Bar Association. They contacted me and told me that they wanted to put on a 2-day national symposium on my case because they thought it was so significant as a legal precedent. They did. I was the keynote speaker for 2 days in Washington, D.C., very proud of that. My case set legal precedent for prosecutors all across this nation to use on a particular point of law, all because of the case I tried. And one of my proudest points on my resume, in 2017, my credentials are such that I did not seek this sought me out, I was under formal consideration for a presidential appointment to be named the next top federal U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois. I'm immensely proud of that.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
That's experience from multiple different angles. That's the experience I intend to bring to this office, and I will bring to this office. That's the experience that nobody else has.
So let's try to break some of this stuff down. First and foremost, you mentioned a little bit about this, but talk to us about the feeling of mistrust. This is something also that you're saying there's a feeling of mistrust within the community, within the police department when you're looking at this office.
And we read about this every day. It's in the newspapers, it's talked about in the media. There is so much trust because of some of the cases that have happened, like the Laquan McDonald case, the Jesse Smollett case, and others, that people don't trust our criminal justice system anymore. The police don't trust it. Our citizens, our residents don't trust it. And that's a big problem. You cannot accomplish anything of significance if people don't trust the system. And nobody trusts it right now.
So looking at Kim Fox right now, so she, in addressing the Jesse Smollett case, she says that it's something, that she mishandled, but she thinks that that's good, and it's something talking about reforming, and looking at the office down the line. So she accepts that she might have mishandled it, but she now has learned from it and is ready to move forward.
Took a long time for her to say that she mishandled it, only because of all the pressure that was put on her. And to say that she mishandled it is a phenomenal understatement. When I ran 4 years ago against Kim Fox in the general election, November of 2016, if you check the front page of the Chicago Tribune, you will find that I challenged her and that I predicted that she was going to catch herself in a major conflict of interest, that she would not know how to deal with it, and that it was going to cause her a lot of problems and get her into trouble. And what happened with Jesse Smollett is exactly what I predicted. She did not have the experience. She did not know and understand conflicts of interest. She didn't even understand the simple process of how do you recuse yourself. Her recusal was a fake recusal. After she said she officially recused herself, she then backpedaled it and said, well, it was just a colloquial term. I didn't really mean to formally say I recused myself. I did it informally. And she said that she appointed her top assistant, Joe McGatz, to handle the case. Well, the law is clear in Illinois. When you recuse yourself, number one, you have to file a petition before the judge. You have to state that there's a conflict of interest, that you cannot try the case because it would be perceived that you have some type of conflict of interest, and you're asking the judge to recuse yourself as chief prosecutor of the county, but not just yourself, your entire office gets recused. That's what she did not do. She simply stepped aside, let Joe McGatz, who owed his job, his allegiance to her, and took his orders from her, since he worked for her, Kim Fox, and gave the case to him. And then we heard and saw all the text messages and emails that came out that she was in constant contact with him about how many charges are appropriate, what type of disposition is appropriate. She never recused herself. She had her hand in that every step of the way. From the time that she had that phone call with Tina Chen to the time that she tried to get Eddie Johnson to not pursue the investigation, she realized that she had dug herself a very deep hole, could not get out of it, and she hasn't. Somebody with experience would never have been in that situation. I certainly would have never been in that situation, and I predicted that she would get into that situation.
Let's talk about, so you've garnered almost 70 endorsements so far, as
And
we're,
I'm very proud of that.
and so these endorsements are what, including endorsements from the Chicago Police Department all the way to, departments and committeemen, and just let's talk about that.
The state's attorney has to have a working relationship, a working rapport with police departments. Crime happens, police make the arrests, they bring the case to the state's attorney's office, and the state's attorney's office has to prosecute that case. And in case after case, our chief witnesses are going to be the police because they are the investigators in the case. So we have to have a good working rapport, a good working relationship with the police. The current state's attorney does not. Several months ago, chiefs of police from all over Cook County held a joint press conference along with the Chicago FOP, and those dozens and dozens and dozens of police chiefs from around Cook County called for Kim Foxx's resignation, stating that she was incompetent.
I don't want to cut you off.
I don't have that problem. I've had a great working relationship with the police, and that comes with working with them for 3.5 decades almost. I've worked with most of my time with the Chicago police, but also a lot of time with the suburban police. I'm proud that among my endorsements, I can show that the Chicago Police, FOP Lodge 7, has endorsed me. The Chicago Detectives Association has endorsed me. The Chicago Sergeants Association has endorsed me. Police group after police group after police group, German American Police Association has endorsed me. So has the Italian American Police Association, the Polish American Police Association, Evergreen Park Police Association, a number of other police FOPs. I am the candidate that they say they can trust. I'm the candidate that they say they can work with. So when people ask me, how am I going to rebuild the rapport with law enforcement that the current state attorney does not have, I've never lost that rapport. I've always had it. They support me. And the moment I'm sworn in, that rapport, that trust comes back immediately.
So let's get into your 5-point platform that you have also. And folks, if you want to learn more about the candidate, you can go to his website at votechristopher.com, that you can find out more about Christopher and everything that he stands for. So looking at your 5-point platform, number one, first of all, it spells out crime, C-R-I-M-E. And the
Yes.
first one is corruption will be prosecuted. So I want to break this down because that in itself makes sense. But a lot of people believe that there's corruptions coming from all different sides. It's not only from the politicians, but it's also from, there's some police officers, who are corrupt. And that's where that mistrust comes in the community. The community members have a hard time regaining that trust or thinking that people understand them and have their, interests best. So how do you, so talk about that as your first platform.
Corruption is a major issue in this town. Chicago has been given the unofficial moniker as the most corrupt city in our nation. I'm not happy with that. I actually live in Chicago, the heart of Cook County, and I don't relish living in a city that's named the most corrupt city in the nation. The chief criminal prosecutor of Cook County is the Cook County State's Attorney. It should be the Cook County State's Attorney that is out there investigating allegations of public corruption, ferreting out the facts, following the trails of facts, and credible evidence wherever that will take me to get convictions for public corruption. The current state's attorney has been in office 3 years. Not one single major public corruption indictment or conviction has she brought. Not one. I will go after public corruption wherever it occurs, Democrat, Republican, I don't see political party. All I see is if there's corruption, it's my job to follow the trail of investigation and go after it. Something I point out, by the way, that I did. I used to be assigned to the public corruption unit in the state's attorney's office. It doesn't so much exist anymore. It's there, but they don't do much. I actually did public corruption investigations. I got public corruption indictments, and I proudly got public corruption convictions. So when you judge me, judge what I've already done. I've already gone after public corruption, and I promise you I will do that when I'm state's attorney. A lot of people, if I can just make one addition to this point, say, well, you've got certain limitations. Mm-hmm. You've got budget limitations, you've got staffing limitations. One of the reasons people say the U.S. Attorney's Office might be more apt to bring in public corruption cases, because we all know, we read the newspapers, there's all these search warrants being executed, all these raids being executed. Who's doing it? Not the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, the U.S. Attorney's Office. What I will do, and what I've done through the course of my 31 years with the State's Attorney's Office, I've worked in conjunction with 13 different federal agencies. I have a rapport with them. I've worked with the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Secret Service, Homeland Security, Drug Enforcement Administration. I work with these agencies when I have a case that I need their assistance on. So one of the things I want to do, because I will have a limited resource and a limited, in terms of budget and staffing, you have to get creative. You have to think out of the box. And one of the ways you do that, you form what I did when I worked with the State's Attorney's Office, joint task forces. You pick a joint target, you share resources, you share staff, you go after your targets, you get your convictions without costing taxpayers any more money. And you can do it very smartly that way. Something I've done and I will continue to do.
The second point of your platform under R is the reducing violence. And a lot of people, again, this seems like it's common sense, but what do you mean when you're talking about reducing violence?
Chicago has a second moniker, nickname, if you would, the most violent city in America. Chicago has been called, and I'm not talking about per capita, I'm talking about straight numbers, the only thing that actually matters. Chicago has more murders, sadly, than any other city in this nation. Chicago is number 3 in size. New York City is the largest. Los Angeles is the second. Chicago is the third. And yet we have more murders than New York City and Los Angeles. And there have been times in the last 3 years while Kim Foxx has been the state's attorney that we've had more cases than New York City and Los Angeles combined. That should not happen. We had more carjackings as of 2017 than any other city in the nation. If you look at the crime statistics, and this is because the current state's attorney is not pursuing the law, she's not enforcing the law, everything is up. She's not prosecuting retail thefts. Not at the felony level, she's doing it at the misdemeanor level. So what's happening, retail thefts are they're going up significantly. I've heard reports anywhere between 20 and 40% that retail thefts have gone up. She dismissed the Jesse Smollett indictment, all 16 counts. I immediately predicted that the next true victim from the LGBTQ community that would be the next victim of a potential hate crime would be afraid to come forward because of what happened in the Jesse Smollett case. As a direct result, since the Smollett case was dismissed by her, hate crime in this county has risen, published numbers, 60%. If you look at this past month, violent crime, murders are up 55% for the month of January this year over the month of January last year. Shootings are up 43% for the month of January this year over the month of January last year. If you look at robberies on the North Shore and the Lincoln Park area and the Mag Mile, they're up significantly. We read the newspaper about how violent crime, the armed robberies, are up on the L lines, particularly the red line. It's not safe for people to go to work, to go to school, or to go shopping or move around the city using public transportation. That is a very sad statement to make. If you look at the flash mobs that have been hitting the Magnificent Mile, gangs, because gangs are the big problem. Gangs are at the heart of about 68% of the violent crime in the city right now, and we have to tackle and address the issue of gangs. But these gangs or these flash mobs are going into these stores between 6 and 10 or 14 youths at a time. In one case on the Mag Mile, they maced a security guard, knocked him down, and they grabbed merchandise from Louis Vuitton and Mag Mile. I think they grabbed something over $20,000 worth of merchandise. They did the same thing to the Louis Vuitton store in Northbrook Court. The other day they hit the Gucci store. They're hitting store after store. And now they're doing armed robberies right on the sidewalks in front of hundreds of people in front of these stores. This is the violent crime that people are afraid of. People are afraid to go out of their homes, especially in certain neighborhoods where the crime rate is so high. So the second point of my platform is to get this violent crime down, to make these neighborhoods safer for our people. I want people to be able to walk the streets of their community without fear of a bullet coming through the air and hitting them and killing them. I want children to be able to sit in their living room without fear that a bullet's going to come through the window like it does so many times, striking them, very often killing them. We had the one child that was shot on Christmas Day. How sad is that? And another child that was shot on Halloween. How sad is that? That's the violent crime that I want to go after. That's what I'm going to focus on to make our community safer for all of you.
One of the things that when you're talking about crime, you're talking about cases, and the closure rate is really low. Like there's a lot of cases that are just never solved, especially when you're talking about the violent cases. What can you do about that?
That ties into the fifth point of my platform, community outreach. One of the biggest issues that prosecutors such as myself face when we're working in the felony courtrooms, there's a code of silence in the community. Basically, so many victims, so many witnesses are afraid to come forward. They're afraid that they're going to be intimidated. Many times they are. They're afraid that they're going to be threatened. Many times they are. They're afraid that they live on the east side of the street and the person that attacks them lives on the west side of the street, on the same block. And they're afraid that they can't even walk on their street. So what I want to do on my fifth point, just jumping ahead for a moment, is a major community outreach program, something that's never been done in this county before. I came up with the idea 2 years ago. I'm very proud of the fact that a lot of people think that it's such a great idea that several of my opponents in this race are now mimicking this point of my platform as part of theirs. But I came out with it 2 years ago, and I also came out with a video with this point long before any of the other candidates raised it. I intend to rebuild the bonds of trust and confidence in our criminal justice system and in the state's attorney's office, and I intend to do it this way. When I'm elected, I will have somewhere between 700 and 800 prosecutors working for me. The only time people typically see a prosecutor, a state's attorney, is in a courtroom. Mm-hmm. And very few people ever want to be in a courtroom. Victims, witnesses, it's not the place anybody wants to be. So what I want to do is I want to send those prosecutors out into our neighborhoods all across Cook County. Now, I've spoken, I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I've spoken in communities all across Cook County. I understand how important it is to go out there, talk with the communities, meet with them, get their opinion, listen to their ideas. It is so important. But can you imagine the impact if I send 700 to 800 prosecutors, once they're properly trained, of course, out into the communities and talk on a regular rotating basis with community leaders, first responders, and our residents in our communities, let them know for once that we actually care. We're actually going to listen, and we're actually going to be there to help them. And if there's intimidation, if there's threats that are happening on a case that I'm prosecuting, I will be out there working with law enforcement with the help of the people from the communities that will bring that information forward to my office, and we will make sure that that threat stops, that intimidation stops, and we will break the code of silence, and by doing so, we will have a better success rate in getting convictions and getting the violent offenders off of our streets.
The two other points of part of your platform, implementing steps to reduce the opioid epidemic, which is running rampant, obviously Chicago, Cook County, all of Illinois. Talk about that.
That's another statistic. Since 2000, roughly 430,000 people across this nation have lost their lives because of opioid drug-related overdoses. That has to stop. A lot of those overdoses and deaths were right here in Cook County, and nothing is really being done about it. People talk about it, but nothing is really being done to address it. Our state's attorney's office has not put much emphasis on our narcotics system, our narcotics unit. It's actually decreased in size. What I want to do is I want to break the head of this dragon on the opioid drug epidemic. I'm not interested in going after the little guy with the little dime bag of cocaine in his or her hand. I want to go after the major drug dealers, the pushers, the perpetrators that are out there in our neighborhoods, flooding our streets with the deadly opioids such as heroin and fentanyl. Those are the people I want to go after. Those are the people I want to get off our streets and put in jail. You go after the top people, and yes, I'm going to need help. It's not going to be easy to do that with our limited resources, money, and staffing. And this is where joint task forces with the U.S. Attorney's Office comes in so importantly. And that's what I will pursue, and we will get those convictions.
And quickly, the last point of your platform is talking about nonviolent offenders and giving people a second chance.
Everybody makes a mistake. I'm a firm believer in that. Everybody deserves a second chance, particularly low-level nonviolent first offenders. There's an avenue for that. It's called expungements. I'm very proud of the fact that I wrote the official expungement guide for Cook County, giving people a second chance to clear their name, get a decent job, put food on on the table for their families, and become a productive member of society.
All right, lightning round, because we're about to wrap up. Question number one. So you have the primary, March 17th, against your opponent. What is your difference between he and you? 20 seconds.
My opponent in the Republican primary has not prosecuted a single case in 27 years. He's out of touch.
Question two. So if you're going to be the person who wins the general election in November, what's the first thing you do day one?
Day one, right after I'm sworn in, I'm going to hold a major meeting with community leaders all across Cook County, and we're going to work on getting this violent crime rate down on day one before I do anything else. I'm getting community leaders on board. We'll get this done.
Last question. 100 days in, what should people expect?
People should expect a major change. They should expect a reduction in crime. They should expect transparency. They should expect bonds of trust and confidence to be greatly repaired and rebuilt with the State's Attorney's Office. People should once again look at the State's Attorney's Office of Cook County as one of the most professional prosecutors' offices in the nation.
All right, so now I gave you 30 seconds here. So tell people why they should vote for you in the primary and the general election.
Experience matters. That's the bottom line. That's the whole story. I have it. I've worked for the Cook County State's Attorney's Office 20 years more than my nearest opponent, and my furthest opponent never even worked for the State's Attorney's Office. It's all about understanding how this office works. When I'm elected, it's more of an administrative job. I'm the first person to understand that, but you have to have worked in the trenches to understand the issues that my 700 prosecutors are going to face on a daily basis. You have to have the rapport with law enforcement that I already have, and their support via the endorsements. You have to have rapport with the communities. I've been out speaking in communities for 4 decades. I intend to make this a respected prosecutor's office, one of the most respected in the nation.
Christopher Pfannkuche, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining us
very
today.
much.
All right, folks, so I'm going to once again show how you can learn more about Christopher Pfannkuche. There is his website at votechristopher.com. You can learn more about him, about his bio, his platform, how to get involved, all that stuff. So votechristopher.com. All right, folks, that's been Political Forum for the day. I want to thank all of you for watching, tuning in, and tune in next time for a very special edition of Political Forum. We'll have one actually in about an hour from now. So until then, everyone have a great day.
Thank you.